This is In the Loop. I'm Christian Bryant. It's Monday, so feel free to kick back for the next 30 minutes with an adult beverage in hand or like hot tea or I don't know, whatever helps you chill. Here's what we got for y'all. Judge Amy Coney Baird's confirmation hearing dominated the airwaves today. We look at what her confirmation as a Supreme Court justice would mean for immigration cases before the highest court. Plus, we'll take you through some of the notable cases on the SCOTUS docket for this term. And is it cool for you to post a ballot selfie online while voting? That depends on where you live. But first, here's what you need to know right now.
I believe Americans of all backgrounds deserve an independent Supreme Court that interprets our Constitution and laws as they are written. And I believe I can serve my country by playing that role.
The first day of confirmation hearings for Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Baird is in the books, and it was just as contentious as expected.
Republicans are following the Constitution and the precedent. It seems Democrats would rather just ignore both.
Senate Republicans are pressing forward, full speed ahead, to consolidate a court that will carry their policies forward.
Democrats on the Senate Judiciary Committee spent most of their time talking about health care, saying Baird's confirmation could be detrimental to the Affordable Care Act. The next 2 days will be spent directly questioning Baird. Due to the risk of COVID-19, many senators chose to participate virtually, including Kamala Harris. Meanwhile, Republican Senator Mike Lee showed up in person despite testing positive for COVID-19 just a few days ago. If Senate Republicans confirm Baird, it would mark the fastest confirmation to the Supreme Court in U.S. history and the closest to Election Day. It would also give the nation's top court a 6-3 conservative slant. Lindsey Graham has held his U.S. Senate seat representing South Carolina since 2003, but a competitive race is threatening to make this his last year in that seat. Jamie Harrison, Graham's Democratic opponent, announced his campaign raised a record-breaking $57 million from July to September. That's the highest quarterly fundraising total of any Senate candidate in U.S. history. But that doesn't guarantee a win. We know that from the 2018 Senate election in Texas. Beto O'Rourke raised more money than Senator Ted Cruz, but still lost. And South Carolina is still considered a highly conservative state, giving Graham a built-in advantage. The state hasn't elected a Democrat to the Senate since 1998. Either way, this will be a race worth watching, especially since it's 2020 and, anything can happen. For 7 days now, the U.S. reported an average of nearly 50,000 new COVID-19 cases a day. According to data from Johns Hopkins University, that's 14% higher than the week before.
Community spread is now occurring with small gatherings day after day in households and families and friends. The only thing that will prevent the next wave is us.
Things on the other side of the Atlantic aren't looking much better either. Europe's second wave is hitting several countries there, including the United Kingdom, Italy, and France, now on high alert as cases climb in major cities. Today, the UK Prime Minister introduced a new lockdown system.
We will now simplify and standardise our local rules by introducing a 3-tiered system of local COVID alert levels in England, set at medium, high, and very high.
Meanwhile, there are growing concerns over a cluster in one Chinese city. Over the next 5 days, 9 million people will be tested in the port city of Qingdao. China has cited mass testing as a key part of the low infection rates the nation has reported since March. It's a big day on the Hill with the Senate Judiciary Committee conducting Judge Amy Coney Baird's confirmation hearings. And you'd be hard-pressed to find an outlet that isn't streaming those hearings. If confirmed, analysts suspect then Justice Baird would uphold the Trump administration's policies on a range of issues. She is his pick to fill the vacant SCOTUS seat, after all. Newsy's Ben Shamiso explains how a Justice Baird could influence the court on immigration cases.
If confirmed to the Supreme Court, Judge Amy Coney Barrett would likely uphold many Trump administration immigration policies that are currently being challenged in federal court.
It's quite reasonable to believe that Justice Barrett, when she becomes justice, is likely to favor most actions taken by the president.
Those include the rollback of the DACA program, the Remain in Mexico policy, the public charge rule, and dozens of other actions meant to curb legal and illegal immigration.
There's so many things that may come before her to rule on in the area of immigration.
But experts also note that Barrett wouldn't be a guaranteed conservative vote. They say her textualist approach makes her unpredictable.
If conservatives expect Amy Coney Barrett to, ascend to the Supreme Court and engage in judicial activism, they're going to be sorely disappointed.
Besides, her tendency to defer to the executive branch on immigration matters could also favor Democratic presidents.
If she follows the broad authority of the president on immigration, then Biden actions on immigration will have to be given equal deference.
During her nearly 3 years on the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals, Barrett had a balanced record on immigration cases.
She had gone both ways. What supported the government where she thought it was a reasonable decision, not supported the government where she did not think it was a reasonable decision.
Barrett's legal philosophy is vastly different from that of the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and analysts expect Barrett to move the highest court to the right on most issues, including immigration. Ben Chamiso, Newsy.
When you're back, we'll take an NBA Euro step-sized leap to get past all the confirmation hearing topics and hashtag Monday Motivation to tell you what else is going on in the world around us.
We take a step away from the noise and spin to really hear the stories that need to be told. Newsy cuts through.
We dig a little deeper on the stories of the day to help start making sense of it all.
Not gonna lie, we usually reserve this space for some of the more frivolous things that don't fit next to the headlines, but it also gives us an opportunity to tell you what's been underreported and gaining traction across the world. Here's what's trending. While today is recognized as Columbus Day by the federal government, 14 states, cities, schools, and people who generally just know what's up are celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day. It's a time to honor Native American history and culture that dates back to at least 1977. This is an annual tradition that kicks up a bit of dust because of Columbus's treatment of Native Americans, but this year is a bit different because of America's reckoning with issues related to race and racial justice, and because there are fewer Columbus statues intact now than there were last year.
The disbanding of SARS is only the first step in our commitment to extensive police reform.
The Nigerian president and the Nigerian police force said they are dissolving the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, or SARS, after protests reignited abroad and stateside, accusing SARS of killing Nigerians and committing crimes they were tasked to curtail. Nigerians took to the streets after a video reportedly showed a man being killed by the Special Police Squad. The calls to end SARS have been ongoing for years and have recently prompted support from public figures like actor John Boyega, actress Genevieve Inaji, and musician Runtown. The Nigerian police force said the officers in SARS will be redeployed and an investigation is underway to look into the crimes committed by police, but protesters say much more needs to be done to end the police abuse of Nigerians. And baseball fans are mourning the loss of Hall of Famer and legendary Cincinnati Reds second baseman Joe Morgan, who died at the age of 77. He died from a nerve condition.
Well, it's nice to have you up here in the booth with us tonight, my man.
Well, it's great to be here. I haven't broadcasted so long. Hey, when he said go, the red light came on. I didn't know if I was going to freeze or not.
Morgan's probably known to younger fans as a longtime sports commentator for ESPN and other channels. Older fans might best remember Morgan as Little Joe, and at 5'7", 160 pounds, he was one of the best small players in the league. He was a 2-time World Series champion, a 5-time Golden Glove winner for the best fielding at each position, and a 10-time All-Star. Morgan's death comes at a time when baseball fans are mourning the loss of other Hall of Famers as well, which sort of punctuates an already devastating year. He's survived by his wife and 4 daughters. The Supreme Court's term is just getting underway, and there are a number of major cases coming down the pike, including the future of the Affordable Care Act, among others. But there's a twist, something you could say at any point during this year. How exactly could the confirmation of Judge Amy Coney Barrett affect those decisions? Newsy's Amber Strong looks into that question for us.
Before 2020 is over, the Supreme Court will hear cases on everything from impeachment to health care. Here are 3 we're monitoring closely at Newsy. Since Senator John McCain's now famous thumbs down on getting rid of Obamacare, President Trump has supported dismantling it instead.
I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a big chunk of Obamacare. That is absolutely a big thing.
In November, the justices will hear California v. Texas, a case that must answer a number of questions, including whether the individual mandate portion of Obamacare that carried financial penalties for Americans who did not obtain health insurance is unconstitutional, and if so, is it severable from the rest of the act? Since Congress zeroed out the individual mandate portion of the law, red state attorneys general argue Obamacare in its entirety is unconstitutional. Potential Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett's previous statements on the Affordable Care Act indicate she disagrees with past cases in which the law survived challenges in the Supreme Court, and that could have an impact this time around.
It was of paramount interest to the nation to determine whether a foreign adversary had interfered in the presidential election.
In 2019, Special Counsel Robert Mueller turned over the findings of that investigation to Attorney General Bill Barr. Barr released a heavily redacted version of the report that became a catalyst for the president's impeachment trial. However, Democrats wanted access to all of the grand jury material used in that report. In DOJ v. House Committee on the Judiciary, the justices must decide whether an impeachment trial conducted by the Senate constitutes a judicial proceeding.
If the Supreme Court says that it is a judicial proceeding, then there won't be this kind of delay that we have seen in getting the documents. And it could make it easier for future Congresses to actually be successful in getting an impeachment conviction.
Finally, there's the reoccurring question of the line between the First Amendment and discrimination, something the justices will grapple with in Fulton v. City of Philadelphia. In 2018, the city discontinued its partnership with Catholic Social Services because the group cited religious beliefs in refusing to place foster children in the homes of unmarried or same-sex couples. Experts say it bears some resemblance to Masterpiece Cake Shop v. Colorado Civil Rights Commission, the case where a Colorado business owner refused to make a wedding cake for a same-sex couple, citing religious beliefs. Only 2 justices dissented in that case and sided with the couple, one being the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Now, these cases will be presented to the court before January. However, legal experts are keeping their eye on new cases involving the election. President Trump has said he believes the election will come down to the decision of the Supreme Court. Amber Strong, Newsy, Northern Virginia.
We've had more guests in the studio, so I'm going to throw on my darkest blacks and start checking IDs at the entrance. I'll see you back here in just a second. We'll try to keep the Kanye coverage to a minimum on this show unless we're talking about the old Kanye. But Ye presented us with a teachable moment last week when he took a picture of his ballot. Some states have pretty specific rules on so-called ballot selfies, and depending on where you live, taking one could be illegal. As Newsy's Patrick Terpstra reports, some North Carolina voters are being ordered to take down their ballot selfies after posting them online.
I filled out my ballot.
North Carolina voter Mark Sardellis took a photo of his completed mail-in ballot at home. He then put it on Facebook and Twitter to show support for his favorite candidates.
No harm meant, but I'm just like, yay, down ballot, let's go Biden-Harris. And then I got a phone call.
The State Board of Elections was on the line.
She said that they had people watching social media.
The problem had nothing to do with who he supported. It was his posting of a completed ballot that got him in trouble. The State Board of Elections says it has ordered 7 voters so far to remove photos of filled-out ballots shared online. The state making clear the ballot selfie ban also applies outside polling places and in voters' own homes.
That's great.
Political scientist E. Scott Adler says laws against selfie pictures and videos prevent voter coercion and intimidation, even if limiting free speech.
Our system of secret ballots, which is there for a specific reason. It's to protect voters.
There you go.
Without secrecy, he says you could feel forced to reveal your votes.
There are no laws that prevent an employer from firing a employee because of a political decision.
We were able to confirm 5 states will forbid ballot photos this election, including for mail votes. Georgia says photos of completed ballots are fine so long as they're not snapped in a polling place. 26 states and Washington, D.C. allow ballot photography. Laws in other states are unclear. North Carolina was the only state we could find actually sending notices to voters posting pictures. A state election spokesman saying, "We are simply informing voters that it's against the law in North Carolina. We don't want people to break the law knowingly or unknowingly."
It just seems like there are other things that they could be worried about right now than me photographing my ballot and putting it online.
He took down his ballot selfies and retweeted someone else's, rather than risk a fine or up to 4 months in jail for something he says he should have the right to share. Patrick Terpstra, Newsy, Washington.
A record 32 million Hispanics are eligible to vote in this upcoming election, which is the largest racial or ethnic minority of the electorate for the first time. But many say they don't feel invited to participate by presidential candidates. Heading into this year's election, which is just 22 days away, national reporter Gabby Rodriguez takes a look at younger Hispanic voters and how they might be the key to increasing turnout within their community.
El Paso, Texas, oftentimes referred to as two countries with one heart. The city has been through a lot.
We have to educate our population on how important it is that our voices be heard.
On this day, it was the last day to register to vote in Texas. Latino voters have been referred to as the sleeping giant, and recent numbers from a Pew Research study support the idea. There are 5.6 million registered Latino voters in Texas, and millions others in states like California, Florida, New York, and Arizona. Volunteers at key locations in town like this food pantry are asking drivers of every car stopping by if they're registered to vote and answering questions. Dora Ramirez was picking up food at the pantry on this day. She wastes no time telling you how she feels as a Latina voter.
Devalued. I mean, we are, like you said, the largest minority vote in America. And yet, we are so marginalized.
One of Dora's major concerns heading into the election, health and the economy.
If you don't have a healthy population, how do you expect to have a healthy economy?
The feeling of exclusion is being felt across the country. In San Diego County, Juan Vargas says he's not as civically engaged.
Locally, I feel like I have a voice just because it's a little easier to get involved, but nationally there isn't that same attraction.
Former Democratic presidential candidate Beto O'Rourke is seeing a lot of the same as he and his team at Powered by People try to engage voters throughout the state of Texas. He holds hope in seeing a particular group stepping up.
And those young people, I really believe, are not only going to vote in record numbers, but they're getting their folks and their grandparents and the people in their lives to vote as well.
I know that I now have more of a voice than I did 2 years ago.
Miranda Escobar Gregory is a first-generation Mexican-American, challenging her parents' political views and educating her family and peers on the voting process.
If we have a strong presence in this country, why are we not using our voice to represent us and letting other people do it for us?
All my emails, vote, register, now. Yeah, they're tired of me.
A worthwhile risk, she says, if it will give her community the opportunity of being heard and awakening the sleeping giant. In El Paso, Gabby Rodriguez reporting.
And then do you know exactly where to vote?
If you haven't already, feel free to reach out to us using the hashtag NewsyInTheLoop. At some point, I'll get really famous and regret being so open and available, but for now, I'm still begging for attention, so you're good. The NBA bubble was, for all intents and purposes, a success. Players were sequestered to Disney's Wide World of Sports complex in Orlando with 0 positive COVID cases through the finals championship. So could a bubble work for other industries like cruise ships? Tourism industry experts say people are ready to take their COVID precautions and set sail. National reporter Stephanie Stone has more.
In 35 years, how many cruises have you been on?
Oh, probably 37. We've went out of California. We've done all the Mexican. We've done the Caribbean, the Bahamas, Alaska, Hawaii. We plan on doing Panama Canal next year. After that, we want to go to Europe and do a riverboat cruise.
When she's not cruising, Betsy Atwood calls Vassar, Michigan, home. She was on board a ship last spring when all the cruise lines were called back home. And ever since then, she's been ready to get back out on the high seas.
They need to sail. They need to get them going. They're always so clean to begin with, and I know now they're even cleaner than they were before.
Cleaning is just one part of the extensive plan to get passengers back. Joe Leon is the vice president of field sales for Silversea in the Americas. They're the luxury arm of the Royal Caribbean and only carry 600 people on board. That's a small liner, as some of the other vessels have capacity for 5,000 to 6,000 guests.
Remote locations like the Galapagos or even the Russian Far East. And then we have our classic ports that we call to in the Mediterranean, Northern Europe, the Caribbean, Canada, New England, Alaska.
Leon says since the shutdown, they've been simulating what life would be like on the ship. What would dining look like? What would movement look like through the ship? He says the Healthy Sail panel, a team of experts, discussed all of that in a detailed 65-page report for the cruise industry that was presented to the CDC.
74-point memo on exactly what their recommendations are, assessment of our current product protocols, and how they think the science applies and why it should apply, and why these are the recommended actions, and then the result ultimately will be a safe environment. Our idea is to create a bubble for customers.
100% testing, face coverings, enhanced sanitation methods everywhere, and there are multiple focal points.
First is going to be embarkation and screening. And that involves testing and how strict we are with our passengers and our crew and our contractors. Then there's going to be the public safety on board and public access. You know, where are you going to have to wear masks? What's the proper social distancing measures?
They're taking shore excursions into account too, and medical facilities. While things will be different, Leon says it's everyone's responsibility to do their part so that everyone can safely sail when it's time. For Betsy Atwood, who has a new trip planned for March, she says what they're doing is more than enough. She's part of a group who is anxiously awaiting their annual cruise.
Well, I'll be heartbroken. They need to open them back up.
The CDC's no sail order expires October 31st. I'm Stephanie Stone, reporting.
That's it for us, gang. As always, thanks for watching. We'll be back with more In the Loop tomorrow. Same time, same place. Top stories from Newsy are headed your way right now.